How are you doing? I'm sorry, I forgot to promote the gathering room yesterday, but I just did remember because it's been a very, very busy week. But I hope you got the message and maybe you're tuning in, or maybe you're listening to this on a recording. I don't know, but when I see that there are viewers here, I will start talking to them. So far, we've got a big goose egg. No, oh, 10. We got us a gathering room. All you need is a handful, right? What was it Margaret Mead said about the small group of dedicated people being the only thing that ever changed the world? Hello from Arizona. Hello. Oh, my tech person, Ro, did tell me that sometimes when we do the greeting function on this software, it then makes it so we can't see your pictures later when you ask questions. So we're going to do a very basic toned down. Ooh, light writing is changing Donna's life. Yay, yay, it changed my life too. Hello from Wisconsin. I'm going to move this down a little. Melbourne, that's where Ro comes from.
Hi.
Hi there. Hi from Denver and Atlanta and from, ooh, let's see, Australia, another Australia, Yorkshire, England, Washington, Ashland, Oregon. This is fun. We should do a gathering room exercise video. Woo, I'm exhausted. Okay, that was our exercise video. Oh, the Right into Light course. I'm so glad. Hi from Bellingen, Australia. Is that how you say it?
Bellingen.
Bellingen, Australia. Belligerent Bellingenians are coming from all the way from Australia. We have Albany, New York, Joburg, Africa, Ontario, Canada. Hello, peeps. Peeps. Hi, Laura, you sweet thing. Wisconsin. Okay, here's the thing. I spent most of this week alone because many of my dear ones were out looking for a place in the great eastern forest where I'm going to go write my next novel. And this is what always happens to me when I'm left alone. I become obsessed with awakening. And then I spend some time studying about it, thinking about it, talking to myself about it. And then I say, I'm never going to achieve enlightenment, all right? Like, get over it. And I go back to just like eating avocados directly with my face. And then I get left alone again and the thing comes back. It comes back. For so long, I've talked to people about the transformation of consciousness. Well, for so long, I talked to no one about the transformation of consciousness because I thought everyone would think I was crazy. But it was just something I was born with. Had it as a child in Mormon, Utah, didn't get it from any New Age, anything. It just was born in me. And then, 5 years ago, it started saying the transformation of consciousness and this thing called enlightenment are, at least in part, there's a huge overlap. Whatever it is, there's a huge overlap between the two. And I became completely, it wasn't so much just that I was obsessed with reading about awakening and enlightenment experiences. If I didn't read about them, I became unbearably anxious and depressed. It was so strange. I'd be in this beautiful environment, meditating away, having, and I'd sit there for a solid hour, hour and a half, and the anxiety would just grow, 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 grow. And finally, I would open another book about enlightenment, and all the anxiety and depression would just go, and suddenly I'd be like glued to the page and alive, like really alive. And I just got a text from a friend the other day saying, when does it happen? Like, all right, I've wanted this long enough. And I thought that we were supposed to just bear that frustration because kind of one of the rules that you say is, oh, I'll never be enlightened. But I actually, this last week, as I read and I listened and I, cruised the internet looking for credible teachers, I saw something that I hadn't seen. First of all, there are more and more people popping up that when I read their stuff, I genuinely believe they're awake. Some of them I've never even heard their names, but the way they talk, my favorite one that I always talk about here is Anita Morjani, just this random woman in the Philippines or in Singapore who just I had a near-death experience and woke up. You know, they're not pretentious. They're not all scholars. They're not all meditators, but they have the same type of experience. And there are more and more of them are saying this is happening on a larger scale. And then the thing I heard this week that I hadn't heard before that gave me great, great joy was this. The longing to wake up is the sign that you are already waking up. And they said, I thought, but who wouldn't want to, you know, have spiritual awakening? And then I realized that almost no one I've met has any interest in that topic, but that the people I know who are interested in it are obsessively, there's a point where it overwhelms everything. And I've watched so many friends and fellow coaches and people I've coached along the way go from being like, I just want a good job, dude. I'm just like, I don't like my marriage. That's enough. Going all the way from there to, well, you're a little woo-woo, but I'll play along with that, to what I need something. I need something supposed to happen to me. And then fully to, I heard a teacher talking about being awake, and that is all I want. 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 And one of the common factors you'll hear, like I was listening to an interview with Adyashanti, whose books I had read, and I was pretty impressed with him, but he talks about how he had this explosive awakening because he was pushing himself so hard. But he said, here's the thing. It's like we say in the coaching community, the way to manifest something is 3 parts: intention, attention, no tension. I don't know who made that up. I read it. I didn't make it up, but it's true. So if you want to manifest something, you put your attention on it. You intend to have it, you put your attention on it, and then you drop your attention away. So those of you who have played with me in animals like horses or the wild animals in Africa, you have experienced what it's like to intensely focus on something and have it run away from you, and then to drop away and say, oh, I don't care, and have it come rushing at you. And that's what not only Adyashanti, but a lot of the awakened ones, like Byron Katie's awakening is a good example. She was pushing so hard from suffering. She wanted to end suffering so intensely that when it came, it was explosive and entire and mind-blowing. And she had trouble. Ooh, somebody says, me too. I don't know if that means you're awake or you want to awaken. But here's the thing. Those of us who long to awaken and haven't had the explosive experience, I was reading about how one of the Tibetan traditions says you have many small awakenings hundreds of times. And there are these little poof, poof, poof experiences, and they take you more gradually to a state where you experience less and less suffering. Now, this was my whole motivation for wanting this for myself, was I don't want to suffer ever again anymore. I don't like it. I've had plenty. No, thank you. Make it go away. But what I have been realizing more and more is that the way the suffering of the self ends is not that the suffering ends. It is that the self ends. So in acceptance and commitment therapy, they say, imagine a radio that has 2 knobs on it. One says, turn up suffering or turn down suffering. And the other one says, turn up willingness to suffer or turn down willingness to suffer. All of us, when we're born, don't want to suffer. So we look at that thing that says, turn up willingness to suffer. We crank that all the way to the bottom. Then we realize that dial doesn't actually work because we still suffer. No matter how much we turn down the dial, I don't want to suffer, I don't want to suffer, it always comes to get us. What we never do is turn up the willingness to suffer dial. But the way you get rid of the self is you accept whatever comes with the truth, including suffering. You're so willing to have anything happen to you, as long as it wakes you up, that it begins to destroy yourself. So I was talking to Liz Gilbert the other day about when her partner was dying, and I was talking about this concept, and she said, you know what? Okay, if this is what's waking me up, and it was horrible. It was a horrible situation, horrible. She went out for a walk in the bitter cold and she looked at the sky and she said, you know what? Make it worse. If you're not going to make it better, which I've been praying for months and months, give it all to me. Grind me to powder. Make it worse. And you know what happened? It got worse. But because she went into the fire and she saw where she was attached and she couldn't have what she was attached to, which is her partner getting better, the parts of herself that were attached burned up. And she came to a place of peace with that. And there was this huge explosion of freedom and much, much less suffering. So that's been my experience as well. The more I turn up the willingness to suffer and say, look, I'm just going to be with what is true. I'm going to do my integrity cleanse thing. Take me into the truth. If it grinds me to powder, that's fine. And then the self gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And when suffering comes, it sort of blows past. And instead of lodging on the part of us that's gripped onto our wanting what we want, there's a spaciousness and suffering just comes and goes. And yeah, Janet says we have to fall in love with our brokenness regardless. Absolutely, to treat it with complete love and compassion. So I wanted to do an exercise and then go into Q&A. This is what I want you to do, and I've been writing about it in my Integrity Cleanse book. I want you to think of something that bothers you in your life, not horrible, like you're being robbed at this moment. Like, if in that case, take action. But think of something that's quite troubling to you. And the example I've used is my eye doctor found a cataract in my right eye, which is easy to remove, but I don't want to have eye surgery. I probably will have to have eye surgery, barring a miracle. It's not a big deal, but it bothers me. So find something that bothers you, some relationship, some job-related thing, and let it come up and be troubling. So I'm going to really think about something cutting my eye open and taking out, oh, I don't want to cataract. So find the discomfort and hold it, and then start to breathe in a relaxed way. And what you're doing is you're willing to stay with the discomfort of the truth. You don't have to like it. You just have to allow it. You relax into it and you say, all right, I surrender my resistance to what is now happening. Doesn't mean a miracle couldn't happen in a minute, and that would be great. But right now, I've got a cataract. I'm sitting here talking to my best friends on my gathering room. Be here now. It's okay. I can sit here with a cataract, knowing it will have to be taken out, with my friends. Don't let it go away. Just stay with it. Be willing to be with it as a spaciousness opens around it. And then notice that in this moment now, you are handling it. And if you see how deeply you're handling it, you realize that the part of you that's handling it is not suffering from it. There's nothing there to suffer. So the thing is still there, and the feeling is still there, but you have become a spacious presence that is holding both the circumstance and your feelings about the circumstance. You allow it all. We've done this meditation before. That little thing that goes, I'm okay, and drops your breath, that's waking up. That's what the masters experience at an explosive level when they're finally willing to be with their pain. Yeah? And you can feel it step by step by step 1,000 times. And it adds up to the same thing as an explosive awakening. So now I will take questions. Sorry, that took a while, but I got very excited this week. So Sarah says, I've noticed some people actually get a bit defensive if I even mention the concept of awakening, as if I'm somehow being blasphemous. Yep, that is the culture that has grown up around the concept of awakening, which has a cultural thing that says, don't you dare get bigger than your britches. You're not going to wake up, just accept it. That's cultural. Feel the yearning in your body. Does it say that you're being too big for your britches? Is God slapping you down? I don't think so. It's God who's got you by the heart saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. So don't let other people slap you down when God is pulling you forward, just maybe choose not to use that language. It's language that gets us in trouble. I wouldn't use this language with just anybody. I use it with you guys. If I were back at Harvard in a seminar there, I would say self-actualization or whatever. There's no language to describe it anyway. So just when in Rome, use the language of the Romans you're with, but don't ever give up on what God wants you to do. And by the way, God could be anything. This glass of water is God. I'm God, you're God, just so you know. Shannon says, how freaking long do we have to sit in the pain? I will tell you exactly how long as we resist it. Now, I took this too far for a while. I let myself, like if I were freezing cold, I would just sit there and go, I can learn to endure this. That's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to treat ourselves as we would new babies. Be compassionate, be giving, take good care of our bodies and our hearts, find a therapist, a teacher, but also when there is no other thing you can do to help yourself feel better, sit and say, I'm okay in this moment. The pain is there. Go into the pain, examine it as an observer, and you'll find it. I did this while I was walking long distances this week, and I have fibromyalgia, so I get a lot of leg pains. And I actually went into the pain as I was walking and became very attentive and said, it's okay. And I could feel my body opening. And that's another definition of awakening. When the body is fully and entirely relaxed, the soul wakes up. That's a concept that I read this week that I've never heard before. And I tried it while I was walking, and not only did it make it okay to be in pain, but it made the pain go away. Hope that helps. So if in the suffering we ask for more, says Anastasia, not necessarily. That was what Liz felt moved to say. Like, I think what happens is we know we're holding back. So for example, say someone you love is dying. Someone I love is dying right now. My former therapist, who's a mother figure to me. And when I heard that this week, part of me pulled away from the experience, but I know better than that because she taught me how to just stop resisting what I was feeling. And I got washed with this wave of sadness, intense sadness that lasted a few seconds, and then an overwhelming sense of connection to her and joy for what she's about to experience. And I actually I texted some people and said, am I crazy that I'm not sad anymore? And they said, no, you're not crazy. You're not in denial. There was a wave of intense pain. And then there was this love, this stillness, this absolute knowledge that we're connected, that she's not going anywhere. So I hope that helps. You lean into everything you're feeling, and then you sort of feel through it, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, whatever. Linda says, how do I meditate in a modern way? I don't want to face a wall and breathe. Do I have to? No, you don't at all. In fact, I would suggest that you send away for like driving meditations, things you can do, because we think meditation is long, and it's actually the opposite. It's being very, very wide awake, physically wide awake, and being still inside. So T.S. Eliot says you can be still and still moving. So one way I would suggest is go out and do an extreme sport. If you don't like holding still, go run until you go into a trance. Go ski on the edge of a cliff where you have to be absolutely present. Go skydiving or rock climbing. Take safety precautions, but do something that will move you so into the present that you'll feel it. And then you'll get addicted. Then you may want to sit on a cushion after that because it's actually the same feeling. And it's awesome. So Dalian says, how do you balance seeing something that needs action, i.e. an unhealthy person in your life, while at the same time accepting the discomfort? When you accept everything you're feeling, one of the things you will feel is movement to act, if that's what you're supposed to do. So for example, I mean, this is a silly example, but I see that the birds near my bedroom, where I wake up in the middle of birds and squirrels and chipmunks every morning because it's all glass, they ran out of water. And so I was sitting meditating, and I felt all of them, and then I felt they were thirsty. Now, they can get water from someplace. And I was meditating, so sit there, right? No, my body got up and went and filled the bird baths from the hose. And the whole time, I was just going with what came up. I was just willing to do whatever it said to do. And sometimes it will take you, like, that's why I'm moving. I mean, I moved to this ranch because my soul said, do this, and I got visions of it and everything, and I thought I'd be here forever. And now it's like, go to the great eastern forest, to the eastern United States. And I know better now than to resist. And it's like, are you kidding? Uproot my entire life just because I have this feeling? Yes. Why? Because I'm going to a better place? No, because that's where my next awakening moves. I'm willing to suffer all the things I have to suffer to move because it's taking me there. That passion, that drive, that intensity that will not let me go. That's where it wants me next. And I just don't question anymore. I just do what it says. But I don't listen to gurus or whatever. It's in here, guys. It's in you. Don't listen to me. Listen to yourself. Karen says, this didn't come up on the big screen. Why is there so much, oh, there it is. Why is there so much cultural fear surrounding awakening and surrendering, knowing that it offers less suffering? I was just talking about this morning with Stephen Mitchell, my dear friend, who is also Byron Katie's husband. And I was telling him about how some people, for example, when Oprah and Eckhart Tolle did their webinar, and he said, could we sit in silence for 30 seconds at the beginning of each broadcast? So they sat in meditation for 30 seconds, and the tabloids started running scream stories about how Oprah had joined a crazy cult because they were doing this creepy, horrible thing. When Byron Katie went to do a radio show at Oprah's radio network, or maybe she was in the TV building, I don't know, but a friend of mine told me, a producer at the Oprah show told me that the energy was so intense in the building with the two of them both in the building that everybody had to leave. They couldn't stand it. Because what happens is when you start to wake up, you feel this vast energy coming in you, and it actually can feel like it's literally blowing your mind and body apart. I've had experiences, one experience in particular, where I had to run to a waterfall in the mountains and stand under this major waterfall with the water pounding down because the energy in my body coming up was so frightening. So it's physically weird, it's emotionally weird, and it is the death of ego. And ego will say, that is evil, get it away from me right now. That is the worst thing you could do. Why do you think they nailed Jesus to a tree? Like, what had he ever done except wake up? But that was very threatening to the power structures and authority structures, both of the individual personalities around him and the political system. I'm just saying. The political system is based on ego. It doesn't like awakening. M says, how the heck do I awaken my imagination again? I've lost some of my juiciness thanks to some life issues. Ahem, and I want my mojo back. Are we just talking about sexual fantasies here? Is this kind of what it sounds like? Here's what I would ask you to do. Travel. And you don't have to leave your house. You can do it on the internet. Go look at all the wild and crazy things that there are to be seen in the world. If you can just go to a different town or do one thing differently than you've been doing it. If you like adopt an animal or start playing online games or whatever, any new experience will jumpstart the imagination. And that's why travel is so powerful. It puts new neurons together in the brain. So do it, either in your neighborhood, through the world, or online. Find a way to travel. Read books, get new eyes. By the way, if it is a sexual fantasy thing, there's a lot online for you. Not that I've ever watched it. Okay, so Laura, how you doing? She says, I've tried so many things and still not had the touch the hand of God moment. I've dared the universe to enlighten me in the middle of Walmart, still nothing. The thing is that you've done the intention, the attention. The absolute no tension is really hard. You can't force it. It's the absence of force. So to me, if I look back, because like I told Stephen Mitchell, my friend, about something that happened to me when I was 18 that I thought was just like normal, that everyone has that, when my world broke apart like a screen and I could see that I'd been projecting everything and that the world was a reality much more beautiful than I had thought. And he looked at me and he says, when are you going to write about that? And I said, well, that was no big deal. And he was like, yeah, it kind of was. And I realized that all these little moments of awakening, and Laura, I know you've had some, because the way you write, you give them to other people, but you want the whole ball of wax. I know Laura, I know she wants the big awakening. And you've also chosen a path in a life with lots of suffering, because that facilitates huge awakenings. You have yet to stumble into the moment of complete limpness. You've been exhausted, whatever, but the mental, psychological letting go that says, I don't even care, bring it, I'm done. You can't fake it, but you're moving toward it. You really are. The intensity of your search is tangible to me. And I know a lot of other people on this call are the same way on this video. So let yourself play, relax, be miserable, whatever it is. You'll stumble into surrender, and that's the moment, kapow. And with everything you've backed up, Laura, you better take a vacation at that point, because it's going to be explosive for you. Okay, so sorry, my computer's wobbling a little. So Ashley says, a lot of my suffering comes from material needs and wants going unmet. I'm terrified to accept it because I feel like then it will never change. Is that backwards? Yes, my dear, it is backwards. Money runs from tension and it loves relaxation. So, and I know, man, I know, I've lived on credit card debt. I know what that's like, and with kids and with a disabled child and everything. And when I was at my very poorest, my most in debt, that's when I read that phrase, God has lots of money. And I had a little poof. And I never worried about money again, in the same way that you can make yourself decide not to sneeze sometimes. Like sometimes you can't help sneezing. It just takes you over and you absolutely can't help it. Other times you can start to sneeze and then go, I must not, I'm holding, a baby during a bris or something. And sorry, that's a terrible example. But you don't want to sneeze. So you do something with your mind and you do something with your body, and it's kind of like, that's how I stopped worrying about money. And it was when I stopped worrying about money and I started going to, I did the Byron Katie work, I started going to lists of reasons to think I should be able, that I was fine, that I would be able to make money as a writer, even with a disability, even though I couldn't type, even though I had no time to write, even though writing's a terrible way to make a living. I just would go to all the reasons it would work. There were 10 million reasons it wouldn't work and 3 reasons that it would. And I just stuck my attention to those reasons. And it built a faith in me. And then I was able to focus more on spiritual work. But poverty can also take you to the edge where you're willing to say, I got very little to lose. I might as well wake up. And if you want it, it's coming. So Abby says, the ego is so often spoken as a barrier to awakening, but self-worth is generally seen as a key. They seem like they're different ends of the same spectrum. How can you find the balance? This is so good. The ego is the part of you that is afraid. This is my definition. There are so many definitions. But an ego thinks of itself as your body that is going to die. It needs money. It needs protection. It needs friendship. And it's going to die. And it needs to not die. And it needs to have nothing bad happen to it. And it always will. All those clenched, contracted things are your ego self. Your real self is who you are without those thoughts. That's all Byron Katie is. She's a very, very miserable person without her old thoughts. Because when you get rid of thoughts, you don't need a whole new set of thoughts that say, I'm a good person. God, gosh darn it, people like me. You don't have any thoughts. You are the consciousness of the divine. You are an inlet in the sea of universal love. There's no need to have self-esteem. You are consciousness. You are everything. You are esteem itself and your lack of esteem. You fit everything. You're vast beyond belief. That doesn't need any building up. The ego built up with praise just becomes a panicky narcissist trying to clutch what it can't stand to lose. But when you lose that, and when you've lost everything, all those small selves disappear, and what you are is Buddha nature. It's awake. It's not a thing, it's awake. That's all it is. And we're all awake already. And that's the interesting thing. When I saw that each little tiny poof I've had in my life has simply let go of a part that wasn't me, I just thought, oh, the reason I never told anyone about that experience that I was telling Stephen about is it was afterward, it was unimportant. I was out of suffering, so I didn't have to think about it anymore. And it never occurred to me that other people had, I just thought I was becoming normal. But apparently I was becoming a little tiny bit awake. And it's fun to think that we're all, just by being here, you guys are showing that you're a little bit awake, or maybe completely awake. I don't know. I hope someday I catch up with you. But here's the thing. After this week of deep meditation and deep solitude and learning and feeling and loving, I am very, very convinced that just the longing to awaken means it's already happening, and you don't even have to do anything. You just have to let the longing be, say yes to it, and watch it do its thing. I love you guys so much. We are all one being. We are all, what if we all woke up at the same time? That's another little fantasy of mine. If you needed a fantasy, that's a good one. So see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Mwah, 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 mwah.